Okay, everyone should have the 9.2 notes in front of them. If not, you can stop the video and pass those out. And the 9.1 homework should have just been collected. Okay, today is all about reflection. So yesterday we did translations, today's reflections. Homework is another worksheet circled problems only. Okay, we're going to start though with some warm-ups. And, okay, hold on. So let's look at the first one. It says, Austin went to the Ford dealership to purchase a truck. And the truck he wants to buy is $42,000. He was able to get the salesman to take off 13% because he's going to pay with cash. After the discount, Austin is going to have to pay the sales tax, and I want to know in the end how much will Austin end up paying for his new truck. So his original truck is $42,000, but it's 13% off. So you have to ask yourself what percentage of the car he's paying for. If he's not paying for 13%, then he's going to pay for 87% of the car. Okay? So if you calculated this, you're going to get about, not about, exactly $36,540 he's going to end up paying for just the car. But then he has to pay the governor, he has to pay sales tax, which is 7.5%. So of the money he's going to spend buying the car, he has to pay 7.5% of that. And of in math means multiply. So we're going to multiply 0.075 times 36,540. When you do that, you get $2,740.50. Okay, so in his grand total, he's going to end up owing this much money for his car. All right. That was the first warm-up. Let's look at the second warm-up. The second warm-up is an OGT warm-up. And it asks for the mean salary at this video store. So they give you this chart and they say, so for example, the weekly salaries, there's only one employee that earns $1,000 every week. There's two employees that earn $500 every week, and so forth. So they want to know what's the average. So what I'm going to need to do is figure out how much money in total that they're distributing here. So one person is making $1,000. Two people are making $500. Four people are making $350. 8 people are making $120. And then 6 people are making $80. Once you figure out what that is, you're going to divide that by the number of people that there are working here. And if you add these up, you're going to have 21 people working at this location. All right. So if you do your math correctly, you should have 4,840 divided by 21. So the average salary is about $230 per week. And that would have been A. All right. Let's start to talk about reflections. You guys have done these before, I know, but let's take your vocab out, and I'm going to have you jot these two down. So you can stop the video to get these down, otherwise you won't have enough time. It gives you a definition of a reflection. The line that it's reflecting over is line M. So jot those two down, and then you can start the video back up again. All right, let's look at example 1. Example 1 is pretty easy. So we have this point P, it's the point 3, 4. So I'm going to plot this point, 3, 4. Here we go, here's P. And what this notation is telling me to do right here is it's telling me to reflect, that's what this big R means, reflect, over the line y equals 1. We'll talk about where that is. And they're asking us to reflect this point P, okay? So first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to find this line, y equals 1. I'm going to come up here to y equals 1. This is the line of reflection. It's a horizontal line. So what you need to do is visually think about reflecting this P across the line. How I always do this is I always count sort of like the units from the point to the line of reflection, and then I make sure I have the same going on the other side. So there's 1, 2, 3 units on the top, 1, 2, 3 needs to be below. So here is P prime. P prime ends up being the point 3, negative 2. All right. So there's your reflection. Reflections are very much visual. You don't have to memorize anything, just sort of visualize it. Okay, on the next slide, I sort of list off some properties of reflections. They're rigid motions. They preserve distance and angle measurements. Okay, let's do a tougher one. So flip to the back. Okay, in example 2, what you're doing is, let's start by graphing these 3 points here. A is negative 3, 4. B, C. There we go. And I might even actually just write these over here because you're going to see a pattern. Okay. So here's your shape. And what they want you to do, here's the rule. They want you to reflect this shape across the y-axis. Here's your y-axis right here. I go through and I always highlight whatever it is I'm reflecting over, so I don't lose track of what it is I'm reflecting over. So I'm going to take this point A and start there, and I'm going to reflect this point. I'm just going to reflect each point at a time. So I'm going to think about, okay, the distance from my point to the line of reflection is 3. So I'm going to go 3 the other direction. So I have A prime right over here. So my new point, A prime, is this point 3, 4. All right. Then I'm going to go to B, and I'm going to reflect that over the line y equals, or sorry, just the y-axis. And that ends up just being the same. It doesn't go anywhere. It reflects back onto itself. All right, and then C, I'm going to reflect this point. So I'm going to, again, think about the distance to the line of reflection, and then go the same distance in the other direction. So here I have C prime. All right, so here's my new image, and C prime ended up being negative 4, 2. Okay, so you should notice a pattern between the original points and the image points, the pre-image and the image. Notice, everything is the same except the x coordinates on A and C are negative. And it would have been negative on the B coordinate, but it was just 0, so it didn't show up, because 0, you can't make it negative. So there's actually a rule, and I need you to write this down, for reflecting over the y-axis. Here's your rule. If you want to reflect over the y-axis, any point, it doesn't matter what point you want to reflect, you will always get out the same point, except the x is negative. Okay, so box this. This is important. You're going to want to have this written, and we'll write that in your booklet too. Sorry. Let's see. If I can get to the next page then. Okay, we're gonna go, actually for time's sake, let's skip all the rest of these and take out your booklet, your transformation booklet. So you can stop the video so everybody can get this out. Okay, so everyone should be getting out their booklet, and we're gonna do, first off, we're gonna do this number 6. So please turn in your booklet to page 6. Okay, so this is another reflection. And again, it's across the y-axis. So I might start by drawing, here's my y-axis, there's my line of reflection. Now, write with me the rule here so you have this in your booklet. We're going to reflect across the y-axis. And here's your rule, xy always goes to negative xy. So figuring out what this new shape should be pretty easy. So if I'm at A and I want to figure out A prime, it's going to be the same point, only the x is negative. If I'm at B and I want to figure out the new point, it's going to be the same point, only the x is negative. So this becomes -1, -4. Same thing with C. It's the same point, but then when I go to make x negative, it becomes a positive. So this is a +2, -4. And then the d coordinate, again, that becomes a +2, and then the 3 stays the same. So those are your new points. Those are your image points. So let's plot those and get our new picture. So A prime, B prime, all the way. Okay, now this is going to be tricky. This is very difficult visually for you to do. Now imagine you're taking this shape and you're reflecting it across the y-axis. So this curve that you had originally on this left-hand side is going to come over here. Okay, you're reflecting it across the y-axis. So that means this straight line is going to be reflected right over here on the other side to the straight line. All right, so I'm going to just erase these guys so we have just our shape. Okay, so be careful again. Here we're just going to have, we're going to go up 2 and then we're going to slide to there, up 2 to there. Okay, so there is your, you know what, I think I got this. These should have been, this is off just a little bit. Here's C prime, or that was D prime, sorry. All right, there we go. Okay, so there's your reflection across the y-axis. So we're going to do page 5 next. This is a reflection across the x-axis. All right, so everyone should flip back to page 5 in their booklet. Okay, so here's your line of reflection. Now we don't have a rule for flipping across the x-axis, but you're going to figure out what the rule is pretty soon. So we're going to just take this point by point. We're going to take A, and we're going to visually reflect this across the x-axis. So there's 3 units between the point A and the line of reflection, so I'm going to go 3 units the other direction. So there's A prime. So I'm going to report my point here as being 1, -3. There's A prime. All right, then I'm going to take B, and I'm going to reflect B. B is 1, 2, 3, 4 units between the line of reflection, so I'm going to go up 4. Up here. All right, so B ends up being the point 1, 4. All right, C then. C right now is 3 units. No, that's 4. So we're going to go 4 in the other direction. All right, so the new C prime is -2, 4. And then D prime should be at -2, 3. -2, -3. Okay, again, this is a visual exercise here. You need to think about reflecting this across the x-axis. So this curve is still going to stay the same, sort of in the same place, because you're just reflecting it across the x-axis. So this line is going to stay the same. But the top and bottom of this figure is in a sense going to flip. Okay, so the top is going to come down, which means this is going to be coming out. And then the bottom is going to flip up, which means this is going to be going in here. So that is the reflection across the x-axis. Now there is a rule for the reflection across the x-axis, and I want you to write this down. So if you reflect any time across the x-axis, any point goes, now let's look at our points, let's try to find a pattern. Notice A and A prime, the only thing that's different is the y is negative. B and B prime, the only thing that's different is the y is opposite or negative. So that is the rule. The x stays the same, but y is opposite. So make sure you have that written down. You will use that on tests and quizzes. Okay, and then last reflection. We're going to reflect over something that's not the x or the y-axis. We're going to reflect over the line y equals 2. So let's find that point, or that line of reflection. Draw that in. There is no rule if you reflect over something that's not the x or the y-axis. So no rule here. You have to do this all step by step and visualize points going to their new spots. So let's talk about A. The distance between A and the line of reflection is 1 unit. So this is pretty easy. A prime is just going to come directly to the other side, which is the point 3, 3. Let's do B. B is again going to reflect right across, pretty easy. And that's going to be the point 3, -4. Okay, let's do C next. C, the distance from C to the line of reflection is 1, 2, 3, 4 units. So we need to go 4 units in the other direction. So 1, 2, 3, 4. Draw it in blue. And that is the point 6, -4. Same thing with D. D, you're going to need to count units, and it's going to be the same 4 units. So D is going to come up right here, which is the point 6, 3. Okay, so we have all of our new points, all of our A prime, B prime, C prime, and so forth. Now you have to visualize this part. You can fold your booklet if you need to, if this will help, or you can just simply visualize reflecting the shape across this line. So this curve that's over here right now is going to be folded over and it's going to come across over here. This line that's right here right now is going to reflect and show up right here. All right, and then this little part here is going to reflect right here, and then so forth. And then this guy, this little part here will come up here and here. All right, that is all You have homework. It is the worksheet. Do only the circled problems, and we will recap this tomorrow.